call episode number 15, which is going to feature the movers and shakers, who are the dynamic women in the relocation industry who move the world and shake things up. Known to many as the rainmakers, they're constantly searching for leads and opportunities that generate business for the companies and agents they serve. They function as very skilled, knowledgeable, and sophisticated communicators, serving as human bridges, right? To connecting corporate employees to the industry's finest relocation specialist. So my name is Teresa Palacios Smith, and I'm Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Home Services of America and HSF affiliates. And as many of you know already, my family's originally from Colombia, South America. And when we get together with family and friends, and today we're among friends, we always have and ask, ¿te gustaría un cafecito? That means, would you love a cup of coffee? And again, for those of you who know or don't know my background, this is a special program for me because this is where I came from, the relocation industry. And so I'm amongst friends and also have one of my mentors on the show that I'm so excited for all of you to finally get to meet because I talk about her all the time. And so we're going to have a little cafecito and we're going to learn more about these dynamic women. So, key to their success and an integral part of their role is also relationship building, as well as creating a seamless process for the major corporations that they serve and the businesses they represent. And they often are counted for their expertise on the relocation industry. They also have to know the business, the real estate background, their acumen in order to help employees and members relocate to and from their destinations. So without ado, let's meet the movers and shakers. So with me today is Kathy Kuhn. And I normally go alphabetically, but I'm going to do this a little bit differently today. So Kathy is the broker owner of Real Living Great Lakes, Michigan. She was the first real estate president of the Greater Metropolitan Association of Realtors. That was in 2011, which merged from two other organizations, right, Kathy? Which is really amazing that you're a president. She's a member of the Worldwide Employee Relocation Council, along with all these other women that you see. Even I'm still a member of that organization, which is so important to the business. She's also part of DMAR's Placemaking and Financial Committee. She's a woman council of realtors and also past chairwoman of the Real Living Advisory Council. And I met Kathy several years ago in Tampa during the Real Living Connection conference when Mary Kelly and Suji Ardino introduced us. They are the matchmakers. They introduced everyone. And she is a legend in the industry, and her impressive background and knowledge about all things relo immediately connected us. I don't know if you remember that, Kathy. Alan Dalton stated that Kathy is a tremendously respected throughout both the Real Living Network and her own company, and she is what I consider a gem. Connie Paulson. Connie is Director of Relocation. Welcome, Connie, for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Commonwealth Real Estate. Connie, too, has been appointed on several relocation advisory boards and currently works as the Affinity Referral Relocation Mentor to peers across the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services network. And that started this past year. And to be on that network is you have to be selected, just a few that are part of that network. So you do a very good job, Connie. She and her team have won numerous awards and also what they call the superlative best relocation departments for corporate relocation business in the Northeast U.S. Region Award. That's very impressive. She understands global relocation firsthand, right, Connie? Because she actually moved 8 times, both globally and domestically. And she managed her moves. We call her the trailing spouse in the industry, and she was the person that would handle all the moves for her and her family, which is no easy task. So Connie, I know that your experience really helped in what you do today. And I met Connie with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services at the convention as well when George Pazio introduced us. And I remember that introduction because he spoke volumes about you, but then also Suji and Mary Kelly introduced us when we were we're doing the relocation session, and they have such huge respect for you and what you do in the business. So welcome also, Connie, to the show. And then last but not least, I have to introduce Kathy Connolly, and she is Senior Vice President of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties, and she's the broker of record. She is an industry icon. Everyone knows Kathy. She's been in the business for over 30 years. I've been in it for 24. We both started when we were 10, guys. So she oversees the corporate relocation of the mega giant Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties, which she manages and oversees several things: property management, international destination services, e-business, legal compliance, affiliated business partner relationship. She also oversaw HUD, right? And REO when that was a big thing. Property, all these things she oversees. She was recently elected to serve a 3-year term for the board of directors for the Worldwide Employee Relocation Council. That's a huge honor, and it's really hard to get on that board. So congratulations, Kathy. And I met Kathy. Kathy changed my life. I met her 24 years ago when I was referred to her by Jan Baker. Jan Baker was a broker in a Peachtree Corners office, and I have to give a shout out to my Jan, who actually I interviewed with and didn't choose the company. I went to a competitor, worked in it for a year, then came back and asked Jan to introduce me to the relocation department because I really wanted to get a job in it. So she called Kathy. Kathy immediately interviewed, knowing I had no experience whatsoever in the industry, and gave me a shot. She actually hired me as their somebody that was going to be do their affinity programs. Believe it or not, they were doing that back then. That's how Dan and Kathy are. They're just big. They see the future and they jump on it. So I've learned everything that I know today from this woman here, Kathy Connolly. So Kathy, I'm indebted to you. I learned so much, and I am here today because of you. And so I just want to make sure I give you a huge shout out. I just respect you so much. So let's get started. I'm so excited to introduce you to the movers and shakers, which I think is so appropriate for all of them because of what they do. So the first question we always ask is, how did you get started in this business, especially in relocation? So I'm going to start with Kathy Kuhn, Connie, and then Kathy Connolly. So Kathy, how did you get started?
Well, I got started in this business because I wanted to, we were going to do some investing in real estate. And so I thought I better know all I can about real estate before we do that. So that's how I actually got my license. And once I learned about it, there was no turning back. I loved it. I was successful at it. I enjoyed it. And so moving forward from there, getting into the relocation business, I was an agent. So I started working with transferees, which was a great experience, and learning the difference between what a transferee is dealing with as to what somebody locally is going to be dealing with in moving was very important. And you had to work with them a little bit differently. And as I became a broker, training my agents on the classes we would have, it would be every time we would get together, I would say, remember, you're going to have to block your week or block your 2 weeks, because this is different than someone who is local. When you're working with them, you need to give them all of your time and all of your energy and all of your attention, because their time is limited and they're so it's such a stressful thing for someone to be transferred for the family. There's just so many more pieces to it than a local mover, whether they're selling their house or they're buying a house, that we had to emphasize over and over again. And my agents got it. And so they were very successful working with transferees in terms of, listing and buyers and moving. One of my experiences I can tell you is as I was an agent, working with a family, in the middle of the night, their baby who was with them got sick, and it was called to me. What do I do? Where do I go? Sent them to my pediatrician. And of course, that's the things you have to do for these folks that are, moving. This person is still a very good friend of mine. And I have to tell you, it was probably 25 years ago that we worked and we met. And they're still here. She's still a very close friend of mine. And these are the relationships that the agents do make when they're working with these transfer.
It's unbelievable. It's like you don't realize, because, you know, especially when you're moving globally, because imagine, think yourself, and Connie, we're going to go to you because you actually did this. You know, all of a sudden you're told you're going to move to China. You're going to, and I'm like, oh my God, my whole sphere of influence, my comfort level, everything I do, the people that I touch, the little things. How do I even get them done? How do I get my Social Security? How do I get, what's paperwork is required? Everything goes into that process. And I'm having someone, a department that really handles it, can really step by step explain it, and really serves to bridge that gap, is really critical. And Connie, you experienced that too. So tell us a little bit about how you got in the industry, because your story is pretty unique on why you decided to get into the real estate business.
So after returning from the Netherlands, where we were for years, and then in England for 3, I came back, and my career in the consumer products industry had a big lapse, and didn't see that going back. I joined the boutique brokerage as an office manager, where we had rented and purchased our first properties after coming back to the States. And I managed that until, and got my license, until the recession and the crash in the housing market in 2007, 2008, and jumped across the street to what was then Commonwealth Real Estate, and said, hey, can I come join you? I want to be an agent. Unfortunately, not having a sphere of influence in our area, and it being a very, very small town where everybody was well connected, and being a true outsider, it didn't work for me. I just wasn't successful. Nick Patio, who was my office manager at the time, sent me door knocking in the town next door. And, you know, you were asking about were best and worst decisions at one point. That was my worst decision yet, or Nick's worst decision, and mine to follow it. And after that, I just decided, you know, that it was that I couldn't door knock. And at that point, luckily, we did get relocated to Virginia, came back up, went back to Commonwealth, and said, I'd really love to work with your brokerage again. I love Commonwealth, but please, I can't be an agent. And this opportunity was there. And I've been here for 10 years. And it's allowed me to take my passion in working with customers and the knowledge that I have from working overseas and living overseas and moving my family so many times, even throughout the East Coast, that it's something that I can speak to customers about on the phone and know what they're feeling and bring them down, and it's relatable to them.
Well, and I think you're the real true walk in my shoes. You know, you walk in my shoes, and I think that's so important in the industry that we're in. And you know, Kathy, tell us because your experience is also very unique, and how you started as well.
Thank you, Teresa. I'm delighted to be here today with these lovely ladies and sharing all of our stories. So I actually started on the relocation side of the business. So I did not start on the real estate side. I was a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. Teresa and I shared that in common. So when she did come apply to work for us, I immediately wanted to learn her story and hear more about her journey. So I actually just answered an ad in the newspaper for a job with Gallery of Homes. Some of you may recognize that company. They were one of the first real estate franchisors. So I went to work for the CFO of the company and learned all about franchise prospectus and how to manage a franchise operation. So I kind of came from a totally different side starting there. And then they owned a third-party relocation company. And so that was my first introduction to the relocation side of things. And my boss at the time said, I want to make you manager of home finding. And I just very blindly said, I don't know what that is. And he said, I'll teach you everything you need to know. So I had a lot of faith in him. So I said, okay, that sounds like a great idea. So I started working for the small third-party relocation company as manager of home finding. Unfortunately, I was one of the first people to have to call real estate brokers and say, you owe us a referral fee on the buy side of the transaction. So it's hard for me to complain about referral fees today. But in any event, through a couple of acquisitions, I had an opportunity to move here to Atlanta and went to work for a new division of Coldwell Banker at the time. They're the ones who moved me here. And shortly thereafter, Sears decided to sell the company, which meant they were closing down the division I worked for. And I had the good fortune to meet Dan Forsman 27 years ago, who's still my boss today. We were Prudential, of course, at the time, but that's how I ended up here and have had, the opportunity to really grow and build on my early days in my career. And who knew that my franchise experience would come in handy on this side of the business, right?
Right. I mean, honestly, and the fact that you just have to give a shout at your own fortitude and how good you were to begin with, that you're, that he acknowledged, that you had the capability of going further, and you have, Kathy. I mean, you just have just amazed all of us in the work that you've done and where you've gone. And I know Barbie, we have to give a shout out to Barbara Adamon, because she's the one that I think connected you right to Dan, totally, because she wanted you there. So every one of us, it's like a little referral network within us. It's so the business is so small, right? That it looks so big from the outside, but we all know each other, and it's really wonderful that we have that connection.
Barb actually worked with me at Relocation One, and yes, she had come to work here at the company before I did, so it was a great.
I remember that story, and I was like, that's so cool. I know I'm going to skip to the following question, because this is really important one, because we've all seen how the relocation business has changed, right? Especially in this 2020 past year, because of the fact that, people are not necessarily moving. And so how have you seen the business? And I'm going to pivot back to how great you guys are at being able to adapt, because we went through this before. We went through it during the recession. Remember, everyone, there was a whole different, I remember, Kathy, you saying to me, go after the HUD contract, go after, and I'm like, but I don't know anything about HUD. And we can do it. You just pushed on, we'll learn it. Don't worry about it. And before we knew it, we were running the whole show, right? We had such experience with HUD and REO, and now we had to do it again. So what are the biggest differences that you're seeing today in business? And what are some of the challenges or opportunities facing the industry? And Kathy, I'm going to start with you, and then Connie, and then Kathy Kuhn.
Okay. So that's a very good point, Teresa. I think in my years in the business, we've had more than one opportunity to reinvent ourselves and try to find a new path forward, because these challenges are outside our control, and we just have to deal with them. And I do remember the day that I said, Teresa, you have to reinvent yourself. We have to look at new ways, because the relocation side of the business is challenged right now. So we're back to that challenge. Obviously, we had already seen clients starting to change their relocation policies and kind of lean more toward lump sum before COVID. And so now that we have COVID, obviously, people are saying, why should I move when I'm working from home? What difference does it make? Where I'm living, I'm still working remotely. So that's been a challenge. Our business was down, obviously, in the beginning, pretty significantly, but by the end of the year, we had rebounded some. But we're in the midst of a group move right now, and it's very different, because we've had to rethink, how do we orient people and give them the same high level of service when we can't even be in the same car with them, So we've had to rethink how we're delivering service and what we're doing to, make people feel like this is still a very personal experience for them. And our agents have been amazing. We've had to deal with, new regulations, how we show properties, all of those things. But on the relocation side of things, there's less control, I would say, in the process. And we're seeing more self moves, people saying, I'm just going to do this myself, because if I'm working remotely, I can live anywhere. Why am I going to pay high taxes and live in inclement weather when I could, be living someplace else? So we've seen an increase in that. But I do think that on the relocation side of things, those companies are challenged. We've heard of, pretty significant layoffs, in part because of the decline. And of course, the international business, is non-existent because of the travel restrictions and immigration laws and things that are impacting that side of the business. So I hope that we start to see a turnaround soon. But in the meantime, we're back to doing our affinity marketing. We're reinventing ourselves again and trying to find ways that we can continue to bring leads to our associates.
Oh, I love it, Connie. And it's so true. You just have to rethink how you do business. And certainly when Kathy spoke about lump sum, for those who are not familiar with that, what that means is a company usually would agree to pay for all the costs involved in the relocation process if you were moving with them. But then they decided, you know what, we're not going to do that anymore because we're just going to give you money and you decide what you want to do it. We're going to give you this a month. It might be $10,000, it may be $5,000. You take care of your own needs. Well, when people have the opportunity, right, to do that, they cut out services that are really critical to the process that, a lot of companies, and employees don't realize that they really need, because you don't know what you don't know until it happens, right? So, Connie, so tell me about how you have changed, what have you seen for your particular business there in the Northeast?
So in the Northeast, we have been blessed with the Cambridge, Massachusetts area being the head of the biotech and pharmaceutical industries right now. And so the business and the relocation coming in and going out to other areas, say New Jersey and all, where there are some other companies, that business is still fairly solid and moving. That and the supply chains related to both of those industries. So you've got containers related to the biotech and pharmaceutical industry, and those are all still in motion as well. We do have well over 3 to 4 dozen referrals that are in a hold status because of the pandemic. And those are just the buyers. And then we have another couple of dozen listings that are on a hold status. And of the buyers, many, as Kathy said, are from overseas with visas on hold, waiting for embassies to reopen. And, they thought it was going to be January, which turned to February, and now we're hoping for March. And it's just all a big waiting game because nobody really knows at this point, but they are still planning to come. We have had the challenge, though, too, where you've got employees that are saying, okay, well, I am in Georgia. Why do I need to come to Boston, or vice versa, when it's working just perfectly with me sitting at my desk in Georgia? And why uproot my family and do that when I can work remote and do the same thing? Because they are functioning now in remote positions. The challenge, another challenge, large challenge, is the lack of inventory for the buyers that are coming to the area. The sellers in this area don't want to move yet because there's no place for them to go locally if they want to downsize and even upsize. The inventory just seems to be at a stalemate. And so you've got buyers that are coming into the area that are in competitive offer situations with 10 and 20 other buyers, with properties going well over list value and thus far appraising. But you do have to worry about what happens in a couple of years down the road when they need to sell again.
Yeah,
So,
these are all really critical factors that really are affecting our industry, especially the inventory, because that is huge. I mean, the cost of living is rising, and so how do you compete with that? And Kathy, how about you? Like, what are you seeing in your market in Michigan? Again, cold, but you've got a lot of beauty too, because that's the outdoors, right? So I'm sure you're getting people that are thinking about, hey, maybe we move to your area versus the major cities that really seem to have been an issue during this past year, especially when we had the shelter in place.
Yeah, Michigan has been, and southeast Michigan where we are located, it's been of course a buyer's market, and the same problems that Connie has had in their market area is low inventory. In fact, I just reviewed the 2020 statistics for just our community, our greater southeast Michigan, and we're listings for 2020 we're down 45%.
Wow.
Even with that being said, in Oakland County, sales were up by 1% from last year, and in a bordering county they were down a little bit. But it's interesting with the listings down 45% that we could even sell a few more homes. So the homes that were on the market prior to that, or 2019, of course, that means a number of them didn't sell. But our inventory is very, very tight. And we thought, I believe that after the first of the year, and even the economists thought after the first of the year and we started getting our vaccinations, that we'd start to see more inventory coming on. It's much slower than anticipated, and many economists have changed their forecast for 2021 with the fact that we are not going to increase our inventory as much as we have our need, and it's definitely a buyer's market. Prices have gone up 15 to 18% just because of the supply and demand for the year of 2020, and we do see that continue. And I talk to my agents, and we talk about, cash is king here, because the sellers don't have to worry about the appraised value of these properties. But as Connie's concerned, we're concerned too. A couple years down the road, what's going to happen when their turn to sell? So yes, that's the market that we are in right now. And I want to just touch on, you talked about group moves, and it's been quite a few years. We're the Motor City. We've got the car industry is a big part of us, and homeowners and homeownership and employment, even the extended parts of the car industry. But we had some large group moves, and talking about the international moves into our country, that really we worked very well with them, but there were a lot of extra steps and challenges that we had with people coming in to the United States to work that had never been here before, that didn't have any credit, in the United States, that those were extra steps. And thank God we had sources that we could work with that actually were able to work with these folks and be able to get them homes and get them the mortgages they needed. So it's interesting with the group moves too, whether internally from the United States or coming in from out of the country. There's different.
It's a big, huge problem, and I actually know specifically about it because that's the area I also kind of managed over when I worked at Berkshire Home Services, Georgia Properties. And I know group moves, certainly, Jan, had told me, Janet Malden, Kathy, about some of the new things that y'all are doing, because you mentioned it early, how group moves have changed, and they're still going on. There are still companies that are going to need to move for cost, for tax opportunities, for ease of business, for transportation. There are always reasons why a corporation will choose to move. And we're seeing a lot coming out of California because their costs are soaring in those areas and they're just not able to do business. So Kathy, what are some of the things, and I say Kathy Connolly, right, that are happening and that you've had to do or change, especially from a group moves or business development perspective?
So of course, it's harder to get in front of clients during COVID when you can't do appointments, right? So there's been a lot of outreach on our part to try to connect with people. Of course, we're using Zoom and all the technology to try to make it a more personal experience. But as it relates specifically to group moves, we're used to doing the group move presentation to the employees. So we've had to pivot and do all of that online as well, which is a little awkward because you don't get the interaction and you don't get to read the faces of the people that you're about to move and kind of gauge, how they're feeling about it. But one of the things on this particular group move that we're doing in the middle of COVID was, the RMC was a little worried about, planning group lunches and events and things like that. And so we brought up to them even to be in the car with an agent, we can't do that right now because you can't social distance in a car with someone. And that had not even occurred to them. And they're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So Janet Malden, who you mentioned, is great, of course, and she's our vice president of relocation now. And so we were brainstorming some ideas, and she took the initiative to go online and try to find a company that could help us kind of bridge that gap. And how are we going to orient these people? So she found this company that creates audio tours, and they're GPS enabled. So we had to work with them to identify landmarks in our area that we thought would be of interest to people. We had to figure out all the coordinates and everything so that as people were following our agents in their own car, they could download this app and it would automatically be triggered by the GPS location to tell them about the venue that they were about to see or that they were approaching. You can add photographs to the little landmarks that you put on the app. They even add music for those lull times when, it might be a little boring driving around. It was really amazing, and the client was delighted that we had taken the initiative to find new technology that would help kind of bridge that gap. And the great thing about this particular app is it stays on their phone, so even after they move here, if they decide to take their family out for Sunday afternoon drive, they can actually utilize the app, and it keeps us in front of them as well. And of course, it's personalized to our company. So that was one of the things that, probably has made the biggest difference with group move management for us.
I love that. What a great idea, right? It's all about innovation and about really improving the quality and still being able to deliver that customer service that our company, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Georgia Properties, our companies are all, accustomed to giving. So that I think is just very, very insightful. And kudos, Kat. I got to make sure Janet Malden, who's watching, also we give her a shout out as well. And Therese Hennigan, who does their global international moves as well. So especially Kathy Kuhn, let's talk about a little bit about, because you have a different, we're going to kind of pivot a little bit about our own personal situations as leaders. But Kathy, you chose a couple of years to make that move over to Real Living real estate. And I just want to talk a little bit about that because I love Real Living as well. And I want to learn more about what that was like and why you chose and just a little bit about that.
Well, being in the industry, actually, I came from a company that I worked into management, and I went into management kicking and screaming. That wasn't one of my lifetime goals, to be a broker, to own a company, but life happens and you go through the doors that are presented to you, and you do what you charge forward. And so when I was working with another company and managing that company was being sold to another company, which I had no interest in staying. At that time, it was GMAC. So it was a GMAC Real Estate that we had discussed and talked to about joining their franchise. And when I was going to start my own company, they stood out because they paid more attention to the service you provided for your clients than what I'm going to call the bean counters. They were very much in line with my philosophy of doing real estate, and that's serving your clients the best at the highest level. So I opened up the Great Lakes GMAC. And then when GM sold off their financial arm, which when we ran into that recession, it was another company that purchased the GMAC franchise financial arm. So in that evolution, we ended up becoming Real Living, and we became Real Living Great Lakes. And from the owners that originally purchased the GMAC brands, then Berkshire Hathaway, we went through different levels. So being Berkshire Hathaway ended up being our franchise owner. So they've been invested. I've been invested in them because, once again, they came into the business and the industry service-minded. And to me, that's extremely important. Interviewed other franchises, and they did not have that same attitude toward their agents and their brokers. So because it's very important to us. So that's how I got to be Real Living Great Lakes Real Estate. And still here, proud of it. We were one of the first franchises to change from the GMAC into the Real Living when that all happened back in.
And Alan Dalton has brought such a level of phenomenon to the brand since he has become the CEO. And so, and for those to clarify, it was Berkshire Hathaway Home Services that owns the Real Living franchise operations part. So I think it's just been an incredible journey. And Kathy, you are one of our legends in the business, and so proud to have you with our Real Living brand as well. And so Kathy Connolly, I'm going to ask you about, one of the things that we can do is support each other and create more opportunities for leadership roles. So how can we bring more diversity into the relocation world, which sometimes we find is very difficult. I know with your role at the Worldwide Employee Relocation Council, they have taken a really deep dive into that, and they're really looking at how can they improve it. I just served on a panel with Minneapolis Employee Relocation Council, which was amazing. And I know that that's really the trend in the organization as well. So tell us a little bit about what you think, or how ways we could support each other even more to create those opportunities.
Well, I think it all starts with awareness first. And so I think that we all have to kind of look at our organizations and kind of see where we are in that journey and what we can do. And then I think we have to have a plan of action to, actively seek out people of diverse backgrounds so that we can be more inclusive. I know here in our company, we actually started Diversity and Inclusion Council this year with your help, Teresa. Thank you for that. And I think, you just sometimes get in your own little shell and you don't really look around you and you don't really realize, and I think again, it's just that awareness and raising the awareness, really thinking through, where are the places that I can go and try to attract people to our business, and then look at the communities that we're serving. And are there associates in our company already that we may not have considered for a particular role that they may be perfect for that? And maybe we've just never thought of seeking them out or asking them if they would, be interested in a position. I think we've in the past have waited for people to come to us, and now I think we have to reach out a little bit more.
And I mean, that is so true. And I know I have a friend that recently asked me, I really want to get into leadership. But I said, well, have you told your president? Have you told no, I said, they're not going to come to you. You need to go and tell them, I want to do this. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me, where do I start? Get me in a program. If I'm not good enough, let me get trained. I think all of you out there watching, that's what you got to do. You got to take that step and realize this is what I want. We need you guys. We need you in the industry. We really do. So, make sure you express it, because nobody's going to come to you like a fairy, and say, come do this. It's just, it takes you doing it. So Connie, right, Kathy?
Say one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Kudos to the organization for bringing you on. I can't think of anyone who's better suited for the position, having worked with you for 22 years and knowing the passion that you bring to everything that you do. I'm just so impressed that the organization took the opportunity to say, we need somebody dynamic in this role. And I just couldn't be prouder that they chose you.
Kathy, you're going to make me cry. And just... I just feel like so much this, again, a tribute. It starts with you, Dan, Gino. I mean, all these phenomenal people that just they see you, right? They see what you can do. And I'm really honored. Thank you, Kathy. Connie, with you, you serve as a mentor. Obviously, you're part of our mentorship program. Tell me about that experience and what have you learned, and how, has it helped you personally as well?
It has helped me personally as well, because although I am a mentor to new brokerages coming into the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services brand, we're fairly new ourselves. So along the way, we are learning new tricks of the trade, diving into the Berkshire Hathaway Resource Center. And so as I'm telling someone about different tools that we have available, I could be learning something new in addition to that. It's wonderful having calls with people from Alaska and different states, and trying to talk to them about their business, and which is very different than ours, and how they're going to jump into the relocation format when they may not have a lot of that corporate business, and what they can do to diversify, which is, the affinity programs, broker to broker referrals, and different channels, and teaching everybody that it's all great and it's all out there for us, but not to deep dive into everything all at once, because it really is too much all at once. You have to take things in small portions and excel at one thing and then move on to the other before you jump into everything at the same time. So at the same time, we're all mentoring. I think there are about 6 or 8 of us that are mentoring. We're learning from one another, and that is really exceptional. And through these types of sessions as well, we each learn from one another.
Well, I think there's nothing better than mastermind groups, because it's like given to, you're both learning from each other. And I could not agree with you more, Connie. Our resource center and the tools that we have from every different level, from affinity work, from relocation referrals, from RMC referrals, from all the stuff that we have available, it can be overwhelming, but it's amazing. All the things and tools that a lot of times I talk to somebody like, oh, I didn't know we had that. I'm like, go to the resource center. Let's go through it. Let's go. I mean, there's so many great things that we offer that we, and the Learn Center, right? There's so many tools that are available that they're so overwhelming. We're going to take one little bite of that cookie at a time, and then we're going to eat the whole thing. So it's just like, that's what I always tell people, because it's such a great resource that our franchise has to offer. So moving right along, because we're almost out of time. I can't believe it. Isn't it been fun just chatting, right? In your journey to the leader and women that you are today, what are some of the impactful moments that you reflect that cause you to pivot? Like you think about it and you thought, this is an uncomfortable zone for me. But after all, you're now reaping the rewards, or you realize, wow, I did that. I put myself out there, and look at where I am, or what I learned from that experience. I'm going to start with you, Connie, because you kind of brought it up a little bit, but and then Kathy Kuhn, and then Kathy Conley, because I want all of you to answer that question.
So I think mine goes back to getting out of the workforce completely for 10, 11 years and raising children as you did, and then coming back and trying to find my niche, and coming to Commonwealth and having owners, founders that took a leap of faith on me to start a business really from the ground up and grow it is something that has just been so rewarding to me. And as I said to you, you can't take it all at once and take that whole apple and bite it and think that you've done a great job with the food source. You need to keep going and tackle one thing at a time. So you tackle corporate first, then you tackle your broker to broker business first, and then you go on from there. And there's always, every day brings a new challenge. You come in and you think you are going to have the day to yourself, and by 8:30 you find out that day has totally blown away from you. But there isn't a day that I come in that I find I don't love coming to work and being challenged on something new, and finding that I have been able to achieve these great things for our brokerage and for our agents, because it's keeping our agents engaged with our customers and giving all of our customers exceptional service, and having our agents understand that it's more than about them, but it's also about the customer service that brings more customers to us. And that whole evolving of the business and growing it has just been truly rewarding.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Kathy?
Well, I've had an interesting journey. So getting to where I am today, I've always had great opportunities offered to me and put in front of me. It's like, here's the door. Do you want to walk through it? And I've always taken a good, close look at those opportunities and stepped through the doors. And just like getting into real estate was a step through a door, getting into management was a step through a door. And it was always with a question and encouragement. We want you to do this. Can you do it? I've always stepped back and said, I have to know what I'm doing. I have to get more information. I have to get more knowledge. So I continued on the path of education, and my real estate classes and certifications I've pursued, and I wouldn't take my next step until I did learn all that I could to get to that next level so I could do the best I could. And that was very important to me, to be able to do the job, do it right, and make a difference. And so the door that was put in front of me to open a real estate company was the biggest challenge and the biggest decision I felt that I was going to be making, because everything else was going along. And why should I take on this challenge, this hurdle? But with a great prayer and thought, and I did walk through that door, and I had great support from the agents that came with me and great support from the people around me. I felt that I had educated myself enough to get to that point to do a good job. I love mentoring. I love mentoring my staff, my agents, to help them to get to the next level, and just stepping back a little bit on and getting people more in the business, more diversity, take the step. The leaders that are out there, the people that are out there, if you see something in someone, ask them. Don't wait for them to step up. Maybe that's all they need, is that little bit of ask, a little bit of, I see this in you. Take that step, come forward. Let's do this. You can do it. I think that's been the most helpful thing for me in my life and experience, is that person or several people just saying, hey, I know you can do it. Take that step. And I want us to be able to be out there doing the same thing to people that we see, to bring them into this industry or whatever industry, to make them more successful and in their life, not only their business life. And there's not a day that I don't wake up that I don't enjoy what I'm doing.
Well, that's the success. That's the secret to your success, for sure. And I love that. All of us need to just see somebody, because that's really what it takes. It's just, you can do this. I know you can. How often is that all it takes for someone to become who they really should be, right? What they should be doing. I really admire that. Thanks, Kathy. And then Kathy, how about you?
Well, like both Kathy and Connie, I love my job. I really do. And I think when you have a job that you feel passionate about and it doesn't feel like work, and I know my husband will often say to me, you're one of the luckiest people I know, because you truly love what you do. And so I think it starts with there. But Kathy said something that really resonated with me. You don't always see in yourself what other people see in you. And it does take that encouragement. My first boss, Rick Murphy, who, Teresa, I know you've heard me talk about him.
And he's in Merida, right?
Yeah. He's a mentor of mine, and started my career. And he said to me one day, I think you would be great at business development. And I can remember thinking, oh my gosh, I was so intimidated by the thought of that. Why do you think I could do that? And so anyway, with a lot of help and encouragement from him, he actually saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so I think, I look back on that today. I didn't have the confidence because I wasn't prepared for it, but he helped get me prepared. And I think that that's one of the reasons, I too love mentoring people. And I think, there's a responsibility to give back. When people have helped open doors for you, you have an obligation to do that for other people. And like Connie, I was a mentor early on back in the Prudential days. And I'll just say, I know that was one of the questions that you had too, but Tanya Hamilton is somebody who comes to mind, because she was one of the first people I mentored. And oh my gosh, she was so enthusiastic and so eager to learn. And she wasn't afraid to ask questions. And she would say, oh my gosh, I know you're so tired of me. I'm like, no, I loved being able to answer questions and help her. And oh my gosh, when she won the Relocation Director of the Year award, I swear I felt like I had birthed another child. She made me so proud, and talk about crying in tears. I was like, oh my gosh. So now to see her, as a part owner of her company, I mean, it's so rewarding.
Yeah, it is. And again, for me, as where I am today, Kathy, I feel so indebted to you for that push and that believing in me. And you could do this. We could do this. It was always with Kathy. I don't care what the question was from our clients. Yeah, sure, we can do that. And I'm like, okay, we'd hang up. How are we going to do this? It was always like, but always, yes, we can do this. Yes, we can do it. So anyway, I just want we got only a minute. Each one of us give us your favorite quote, book, or advice that you want to give to another woman. I'm going to start with Connie, Kathy Kuhn, and then Kathy Connolly. So your best favorite quote. Connie, what do you have?
A lot of quotes from Maya Angelou. About success is about liking yourself first, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. And then everything else can fall into place. And she has things that just resonate with me, but that is one as well.
I love Maya Angelou, and I quote her all the time. She is one of my very, very favorites. Thank you so much, Connie. How about you, Kathy Kuhn? You ready?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I remember from being a small person was a quote that I'll use, and I'll throw it out to my staff, my agents a lot, every once in a while, I should say. But it's good, better, best. Never will I rest until my good is better and my better is better best.
Oh, I love that. That's the first time I've heard that. That's fantastic. I'm going to have to steal that one. I love it.
You can have it.
All right, Kathy.
So, Teresa, you will remember Ed Urbisfeld, who is the founder of our company, and he had a very simple but very profound quote, and it was, "If it is to be, it's up to me." And so I live by that. I actually have it posted outside of my door right now, so that I think that we all just need to look internally and say, what can we do? What difference can we make, either in our business or in somebody else's life? And then one thing I'd like to say is the book. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Guy Kawasaki, but he was the chief evangelist, if you will, for the Macintosh computer with Apple. And he has a book called Enchantment, Changing Hearts and Minds and Actions of People. And it's a great read. So I highly recommend.
That's a great one. We'll put it in our notes as well, Kathy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have enjoyed our time today with all of you, and I've learned so much from each of you, things that I didn't know. And I'm so impressed with the work that all of you do and the great opportunities that you bring to the companies and the organization. It's amazing. As I thought about what to do, like I always end with a quote, and the fact that you work to create so many great experiences for several people as you think about it. So there's so many clients that a lot of people don't realize. You've got the third-party company, right? You've got the relocation management company, also known as the RMC. That's not, I mean, the corporation that's moving the client that represents the RMC, right? You've got the client that's moving, right? Then you've got the agents. They're our clients too. All these entities that you all have to be so alert with, that customer service is paramount. And that you make it look so easy. So I love this quote that I thought Walt Disney captured. It says like this: do what you do so well that they will want to see it again and bring their friends. And that's what you do. You do it so well that they want to go through it again when they know that they're going to experience it again, and they'll want to refer everyone to you. And so I again thank you, ladies, for being part of this series today. It has been a special moment. Kathy Connolly, Kathy Kuhn, Connie Paulson, thank you so much. And Kathy, obviously, I just love you to death. You know that, right? Remember, everyone, please make sure to comment, like our page, join our YouTube channel, and join me the next time, which is 2 weeks from today, when we're going to do Women Crush Wednesdays right here on this channel. And we're going to zoom in on the super achievers, the superstar women who have made that top list with our organization. Thank you again, ladies. Thank you for watching the show. And please remember, all of you out there, to bring other women up as you climb the ladder to the top. Thanks again, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.